but then I had a recent. I don't really want to get into it. It's just too odd, too strange. But I had some, whatever you want to call it. I call them X-rays, like aliens. Well, I don't know what these shape-shifted sons of bitches show up at my mom's place recently, like it was last winter, and that was just nuts, man. Like it was just bananas. Like I don't even know how to describe it.
What are these things? What do they look like?
Well, like, yeah, I had a visit. They showed up, and it was really weird. About like 10 minutes before they showed up, I knew they were coming. It just so happened. But yeah, I was a real nuts and bolts kind of researcher, and I've gone like from nuts and bolts to like basically like full woo-woo. Like I'm flying right over the woo-woo nest, like it's just so, I guess you'd call it, I've gone full Jack Valet sort of style. Like it's so, yeah. The one that shot, yeah. So and I look, when I say one, like these could all be just one big something that can operate as independent units. I don't really know, but yeah, I don't really understand. Not that I necessarily know how to define what is interdimensional, but these things seem to me like they materialize out of nature almost or something. I don't know. Or they're able to like, pass through a membrane that's up against the membrane of our reality or some such thing, or they're using some phase cloak if you want to go nuts and bolts on it. But yeah, this thing. So I'm at my mom's place and I know these things are coming. Don't ask me how I know it. But my mom was there. She woke up at one point. But anyway, so I didn't think these things were coming. I was at her place. The front door is like this. It's like an old castle door that's like, I don't know, 12, 13 feet high. Oak door. Like you're not getting through that. But then there's this like bank of windows above it that would look down in. Well, who do I see up through those windows, like looking down at me, was, for the best that I could describe it, it looked like basically a Tyrannosaurus Rex or like a dinosaur head, but I have like these like snakes growing out of its face and stuff. It was really bizarre. It was really like very intimidating.
Like an octopus, like pseudopod.
Yeah, but like freaky deaky, like real weird, really weird. But it was a solid thing. It wasn't like an apparition or anything. It just didn't make sense. You couldn't consolidate it with reality if you accepted like what your brain was perceiving it as. Like when we look around a room or whatever, we are only optically observing enough data of any given object, and that until there's enough data that our brain says, oh, I know what that is. That's a laptop or that's a whatever. And then you can look on to the next thing. So we don't actually, or we don't often in our day-to-day goings around, like actually spend the time to observe, like, what is that I'm looking at, right? And try to remove your perceptual filter and just try to observe the raw data optically. So anyway, that present themselves in such a way, the richness of the data is so voluminous that you could sort of interpret whatever you want, and it's shifting so fast. It's like these gaseous clouds almost that form these beings. And so for 1 second, it looks like one thing, and
like a plasma.
That's what Rob Heatherly is thinking now, because he's been sort of following my work, if you want to call it such, and he's thinking plasma. But it's unbelievable. But it's almost like I don't know, like it's I don't know. It just seems so complex, and in my head, what I thought was how they were able to sort of maneuver into these shapes and stuff. I'm not saying doesn't appear to be, spacemen in a metal disc arriving from another planet. It looks, unless they're using some sort of mind job or something, like But then why would the camera catch all this? You know?
First talked about your X-rays. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
What did it do? Like,
so I was not willing to exit the building when this fellow was up there, but he departed, and then I went outside and had this interaction whereby it was like this game. These cats are really weird looking, all kinds of shapes and sizes. And then all I had on me was a pistol grip LED flashlight that I really love, and so there was no words spoken or anything, and I was talking the whole time. Like I was yammering on just like this. Like that's how I don't know. Ever since I had the dogs, like I would talk to them, and I would just like talk out loud. So I was like talking to them out loud, like sort of hoping that to manage the situation. But I wasn't in an aggressive posture, as aggressive as I could be. But I was not in that posture, and so they didn't seem to reflect that back or anything. But like one of them would start approaching me, and then I would point the flashlight at it, and then it would back off. They're really well camoed, and so you can think they can come out of anywhere, sort of. And yeah, I know it sounds like I'm crazy or whatever, but this went on, and that was kind of the exchange. And then there was sort of some sort of understanding that was reached, and they left. So
what do you mean by understanding?
Like I originally thought I was going to have to kill this thing. And I had designed these really cool. I'm pretty handy, and I designed these lithium fused cherry bombs, like Molotov cocktails, because I thought I'd have to. How would you fight something like that? I'd incinerate it, right? Because I thought it was this big amorphous blob type thing.
Unless it was plasma, in which case it was.
Yeah, right. Well, but what are you going to do? I'm not going to go in swinging with the baseball bat. I understood that it wasn't really necessarily meaning me any harm. It was just, I felt like, and I don't know whether there was some sort of messaging, nonverbal messaging that went on, but it was like, look, like cool off. Like it didn't want me to be on this hell rage after it, and it was sort of saying like, we're not going to fuck with you, or we're not going to do anything with you either. So,
did he give you any sense why it was there?
It was only it never spoke any words, but I felt I knew certain things. So whether it was putting something in my mind, it came because I was getting close to it, and down to sort of how it almost like 3D prints to materialize or whatever. Maybe I'm nuts, maybe I'm not. But I think it somehow knew that I was onto it to a degree that it wanted to come and tell me. And I was thinking I was going to have to hunt it down and kill it or something. And I don't know. So it knew somehow that I was, or well, I don't know. I think that it somehow knew that I got a little too close to it. It wants to play by its rules or something, like it doesn't want you getting an upper hand.
It wants to hide. It wants to be able to do what it does.
Yeah, and call the shots.
Without attention.
It wants to set the boundaries of the game or whatever. Out like in reflection since then. And again, now this is me thinking about this all the way from then till now. And I feel like it was actually kind of, when you think about it, it was a pretty interesting and like no violence was offered or exchanged or anything like that. I kind of feel like maybe we're going to have to be protecting these guys against the goddamn feds, Like I think the CIA and all those cats are far more, ill-willed than
dangerous. Dangerous to people.
And actively against us than what these cats were doing.
Yeah.
So
look, I probably like these things haven't. I mean, there are instances of something non-human harming. With cattle mutilations.
But if you actually look at what's going on carefully, things, when there's an anomalous event taking place, things are not what they seem. Like when you analyze the data, it's not because most of the time, another really great trick is like people are always UFO or you're looking for the alien or the Bigfoot or whatever. People are like pinpoint focused on where whatever it is supposed to be. And there's all this other stuff that's going on all around it. The environment gets all affected. And that's where you tell what's not anomalous or not, because of these environmental effects that take place. That's not even looking at the whatever the center point or, you know, whoever the main target is. Another theory I have is that this thing is so weird and complicated that it's going to be a subjective experience to each individual. We're all going to go through it differently. Maybe this is some spiritual whatever where you might experience it as gray dudes showing up in a disc or something, or somebody else might, you know, maybe we all will you know, go through it different, or we'll perceive it differently. Who knows? I don't know. I'm the more I look into this, the more like you start to realize that really we these things could be we as individuals could not be what we think we are. You know, like we might not actually look like, because I'll tell you, I'm like, I don't want to let go. I guess I'm all in here at this point, but another really weird thing is like, so the environment is affected, and anything that's in that environment is affected, including people who start looking really weird. It's bizarre, man. And then, you know, it's weird, man. It's weird. Actually look at the optical data that's being presented to you when you...
It never does the same thing, or rarely does the same thing twice. Like,
yeah,
even at Skinwalker, it's always doing something different. It's always one step ahead.
Yeah. So. But these environmental effects, especially on like vegetation, you start to see it. You can without.
That's like radiation. That's like an effect.
It could be. It could be. Or you know, or it could be. Yeah. What? Because the strange thing is, if you were witnessing this with your own eyes, that would be one thing, because you could be getting affected by it. But why is the camera recording that? You know, I'm not sure. Right? Yeah, but you could. There definitely is some sort of effect, in my opinion, happening to the larger area of when an anomalous event is repent. You know, what is the perimeter of, like, where is the boundary of that? I have no idea. You know. Like, is it worldwide, or is it, you know?
Well, yeah,
you know?
maybe whatever this is. Again, I'm just totally speculating, but maybe the veil is thinning between two separate realities or dimensions, and whatever that reality is kind of fading in and merging with our own. And so you're kind of like, it's like a Venn diagram. It's like overlapping. And
absolutely. That is, I think that's a really, I think that's a very solid. No, I think that's a solid analysis, because, you know, I guess that was where I first started thinking, okay, inner dimensions, because it almost looks like there's a, like when water and oil separate and there's this interface membrane between those. It almost looks like, you know, maybe when this environment is affected, maybe we're in their dimension at that point, you know. Yeah. Maybe we're getting pulled into their dimension or whatever. There is a sort of crossover point, or they're using technology to open a door, or sort of the shapes of some of these creatures. Like, one really weird feature was there were these X-rays are like these kind of long, dark guys with sort of like centipede or mantis style, like little limbs or, you know, extensions coming up, like for hands or something. Then they have like a head, but in their head, like, it's just so bizarre. Sitting in their eye socket, or where the eye socket would be, will be like a little creature holding this like device or something. And one of the remote viewers drew that. Like, I hadn't sort of interpreted it to that degree, but it matched exactly what I was seeing. So you got to think like dimensions or something, because it's just so weird. And like the guy that showed up with the snakes growing out of his face and stuff, like, that's just like, what, they're going to take it to that level? Really? Come on. You know, like, you got to go with the snakes going out of the eyes and stuff. Jesus, you know, like, it's just too, I mean, I don't know, there would be no reason to appear like that if you were just another biological species. You wouldn't think. Like, it wouldn't even be.
But you might appear as a gray to put people at ease, right? That could be like a
But what would,
I don't even know if they're related. Maybe they're not related at all. Who knows? Right?
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's so, but again, that could have just been how my brain was interpreting the optical data that was presented. It might have just been a gaseous plasma, because the rate at which these things shift is unbelievable. It's like every second to second, it's never the same, it seems. So there's an infinite number of things you could draw out of the data. Your brain could draw and process of what it thinks it's seeing here. So snakes growing out of their faces or something. That's what I see. I would never have dreamed of such a thing, but.
Yeah, maybe it's your mind just interpreting something you can't interpret.
Exactly. That's what I think when I look at how different people. It's just impossible to reconcile it as matter like we understand it, And then again, you think that there's more empty space in any one of us than there is solid mass, right? So if some alien species or something had the technology to scramble and rearrange that matter, like actually physically through a physical process, right? So God only knows. But I'll tell you, it's like you know this. I think you've said it before too. It's like the more you understand, the less you understand. Like it just for every inch deeper you get into it, it's just a vast chasm of just what the hell. Like it just gets more and more complex and uncomprehendable. Sean, is what you realize. I think you can't. You're going to come. Everyone's got a different opinion, and it's up to us to bring on board all that data and try to make sense. Try to assemble it in some semblance of meaning, which might only end up being subjective relative to the individual. Who knows? This is a study almost of ourselves. Like but the deeper you go into this, it's almost like we're the humans or our whatever it is that we are becomes just as much a subject of study. You can't separate it, right? Like it's even just how we are going to understand this for what it is. Like it's so we are a part of this puzzle somehow or another. It's not like we're just
prisoners of our own modes of perception.
Definitely, right? Yeah, and but it's at the end of the day, it's up the old hamster wheel where we're going to figure out the biggest gains. I mean, I love the technology side of it. I love that there might be hard material that we can study. I love that, but it just feels like. It gets weird. It's just you can't avoid it. It gets so bizarre, It goes beyond that somehow. So at least for some of the stuff. So thank you very much, Sean.
All right, thank you, Greyowl.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Good looking out, my man, and we'll see you soon,
all right, brother.
Okay, cheers.
All right,
Later.
Talk soon.
Later.